Alright guys, so we just got done watching Skeleton Crew episode 8, which is the finale, unfortunately. So we're gonna have to see what I'm gonna be watching next Tuesday. So, it's bittersweet, We finally get to the end to kind of see the resolution in the end of the show, which is amazing. But it's also a very sad day because it's ending, and I've really actually enjoyed Skeleton Crew. So let's dive into the few notes that I have here. So it's a droid run operation. I called it, many episodes ago. So I found that it was really interesting that Farah actually was not bothered by it being a droid run operation, and she knew about it. So I find that pretty interesting. Right when we start this episode, Wim and all the kids, they get to kind of go home, except for Fern, obviously. And they have the droids kind of just hovering over them, watching their every move, very Big Brother-like. And that's just kind of, I don't know, creepy, dystopian vibe. And I don't know, I didn't really enjoy that. Obviously it was good for show, but could you imagine being in that situation where your every move is being watched and recorded and calculated and then being sent up for review? That's pretty crazy. So, that's what I have to say about that. Let's talk about Jod. When he killed the supervisor, I felt like he did the planet a favor, where the whole world was so corrupt that being able to, take down, the gas field and kill the supervisor. And if you guys noticed too, when he did kill the supervisor, all the power in the entire planet shut down. So that just shows you that basically every little thing that the people who live on At are involved in, he knows every waking moment of everything because he is tapped into all of it. Creepy. So in a sense, I feel like Jod, on the back end, looking long term, actually did them a really big favor. So pretty happy about that. When the pirates came in and they started destroying the planet, they came in and it escalated very quickly. And I kind of remember that scene when the Mandalorian, when they were going to when they started shooting on Navarro with Gorian Shard and all of that whole scene reminded me of kind of that piece. And then you kind of think about real pirates, right? Pirates, a lot of times when they come in really hot to kind of set their presence, to make them feared immediately and make the people kind of scramble and not have an option or come up with a plan. It's kind of making everybody caught off guard. So they really played into that really well. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. One of the highlights and character arcs for me was Wim's dad. Let's talk about him for a second. Him stealing the bikes with the kids was hilarious. When he kind of, Wim and Neil, they kind of take off. And then I forget what the kid's name, but he sees him just kind of sitting there. And then it kind of cuts scene to him, riding the bike. If I had to guess, he probably either, ripped the kid off the bike or decked him and stole the bike. Either way, I thought that was really dope just to kind of see him doing what it takes to kind of get the job done. So I thought that was really awesome. And the chase scene too, right, was absolutely bananas. They're flying through, the neighborhood and they're getting shot at, and then they eventually, go into the woods. And first thing I thought about was, oh, that's pretty dope because Wim's already done this, in the beginning of the series. KB's been flying up and down these woods forever. So they really, especially KB and Fern, which Fern obviously wasn't in the scene, but they really know how to, ride these things into the forest. And to see Wim's dad just kind of follow them and trust them in the moment. And then they ramp, over this ravine, right? And land, and then you see Wim's dad just kind of get pumped and get juiced up, and he's like, yeah, right? And it was nice to see him kind of let go a little bit and not be so uptight and be a square, right? And to kind of reconnect with that inner child. It was really nice to see Wendell do that and be able to just kind of let go and be free. So that was dope. Did you guys notice Neil's dad? Neil's dad is an absolute unit. Why wasn't he shown more? Obviously, you see him here a little bit, walking down the street and stuff. And earlier you see him either, through the window or through the hologram and stuff, but he wasn't really involved. He's such like a cool looking character. I kind of wish he was. Neil's mom is super active and super involved. Love to see it. But I would have loved to see Neil's dad a little bit more involved. He kind of really played the background there. For such a cool looking character, would have loved to see a little bit more of him. Jod's arc is really interesting. You can tell he kind of felt sad when KB like crashed. It had like a subtle emotional weight to it. And you can tell he's like, I didn't want this to happen this way, so I almost feel like he kind of cares a little bit, even though he's just straight bad. So that was something interesting there, because they also get into like learning Jod's kind of background, where we find out that, he was kind of taken in by a Jedi, and, unfortunately Order 66 happens. His mentor, gets killed off, and kind of sort of like Ezra, except Ezra kind of kept the path, and where some of these Padawans did go dark side and Sith or Inquisitor, he kind of went the complete opposite route and just like self-centered, worried about himself, and went the pirate route. And so really interesting to see that, because that's a story and that's a path that we haven't seen in Star Wars yet. So it's very intriguing, and I hope they expound on that even more if they do a season 2. And I'm really hoping for a season 2. So I thought that was cool. The Force with Jod. All right. Obviously, in the beginning, we saw him using it a lot on like objects with like metal and all that. But today he was able to, he used it, on people, on biological things. And so that tied to obviously knowing his backstory and being kind of mentored for a short period of time by a Jedi tells us that he's actually a Force user, and it's not some like trick or anything like that, like the guy we saw in Obi-Wan Kenobi. So that was pretty cool to see. So for those of you that called it that he's an actual Force user and it's not like a trick, you called it. And I kind of felt the same way too. I just wasn't really sure. So there's that. One of the moments where they finally, pull the lever down and you see kind of the barrier just kind of dissolve. It gets bright, and then all of a sudden it gets dark, and then all the people outside can actually see the stars for the first time, and they're like, whoa. Like, what a beautiful moment, These people have kind of been living in this like sheltered world, basically in a sense underground without actually being underground, and to be able to see the galaxy for the first time must have been so beautiful and peaceful and like a breath of fresh air. Like, obviously their safeguard is gone, but the sense of freedom, I'm sure, kind of really like set in, because some of them really didn't know if, they were really free or not, right? So I thought that was really cool. One of my favorite moments is when all of a sudden, the sky opens up, and then the X-Wings and the B-Wings start flying in and just showing everybody who's boss. I thought that was really dope. One thing I would like to add too is they left Jod in the tower. Now what? That's one of the things about this episode where I'm really like not sure, is they kind of left it pretty open-ended, which could be a good thing if they do decide to do a season 2. because it didn't like wrap up completely. It was a great episode, but I don't know how I feel about it being a season finale episode. It would have been great if this was like, I don't know, maybe last week's episode, you know, and then have another episode that was like boom crazy, or added like another 20 minutes, because this episode was only about 40 minutes long. So they probably could have tied it up a little bit better, but that's not to say that the episode wasn't great, because it was. So that's one thing I would say there. And for some last notes, the very end scene, you see the Tantive 4, you know, fly in. I was like sitting there, and as I see it flying, I'm like, yo. So that was cool. I think it was a Tantive 4. Tantive 4's got red stripes. I couldn't really see the red stripes on the ship, but I'm gonna lead to believe that it was, and maybe Leia's on the ship and whatnot. If she gets to meet the kids, I think she would love them as like new rebels, so that would be absolutely dope. And then finally, the end scene credits, guys. The end scene credits was cool because it looked like what was on Wim's tablet, and it's showing the stories of the Jedi and stuff like that. So all that to say, if they do make a season 2, and I really, really hope that they do, I think there's a few ways they could go with it. They could either go, you know, the Jedi route, which would be dope, because if I'm not mistaken, this is taking place like right after episode 6, you know, Return of the Jedi. So, you know, you've got Leia, you got Luke, you know, Mando, Ahsoka. You know, they can really pull in these characters around, so that'd be dope. Grogu, you know, obviously that's a fan favorite there. So, and with kids, you get Grogu and Neil all in one shot. Forget about it. Money making machine, right? So, all in all, guys, I hope they make a season 2. I absolutely enjoyed myself. It made me feel like a kid. And I know I'm not the only one that said this, but this is a very, you know, 80s Goonies Amblin production type of thing. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. So I'm cheering them on. Guys, I know if you haven't given Skeleton Crew a chance yet, I understand if you weren't a big fan of The Acolyte. I wasn't either. There were some highlights in there, but wasn't my favorite thing. Boba Fett was okay. You know, the last season of Mandalorian, I thought was pretty good. Majority of the people didn't really like it. There's a couple episodes in there, like the Jack Black episode, that I didn't really care for. But I thought the season as a whole was pretty good. Obviously, season 1 and season 2 were epic. You know, and Obi-Wan Kenobi was okay. So I understand, guys, if Star Wars has been, you know, kind of inconsistent for you, and maybe that's why you're not giving Skeleton Crew a chance. But trust me, Skeleton Crew is fantastic, and you need to give it a shot. So that's all I got to say about that. Anyways, guys, let's talk about it. You have any more theories or where this show can go if they do end up doing a season 2? Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments, and let me know also how'd you feel about the finale and the show as a whole. That's it for me, guys. My name is Gianni V. Please smash that like button and hit the subscribe button for more content just like this. And as always, may the Force be with you. Peace.